Thank you. I appreciate it. I love this old meme template. This is great. The good thing, bad thing meme template. But, so I work with a lot of brand owners, deal with a lot of brand owners, and everybody says, I want to make data-driven decisions. I want to make more money. Well, okay, obviously, who doesn't? And the joy of data-driven decisions is it takes away the anxiety. Like, it de-risks decisions. But the larger issue we have with websites, when you combine it with this idea of loving data-driven decisions, is brand owners are emotionally invested in their websites. And so suddenly the go with my gut options, when it's tied with like what you know, because your website is your baby, your brand is your baby, it becomes real easy to reject data in favor of what I just aesthetically or opinionatedly like better, ignoring what my customers think. And there's a way out of it, and it's split testing. Split testing will really spell out for you, this is what these decisions cost you, right? When you want to go with what you like subjectively over what the data tells us we should do. And so in 2020, before the bad thing happened, I thought to myself, I'm going to get good at split testing. And I'm going to get good at split testing by doing it. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to bill my clients for just the straight time that it takes. And it turns out it doesn't take that much time to do. When you have tools like Google Optimize, which is free. Oh my gosh, the thing is free. And if you're running Google Analytics, it's already half set up for you. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why should I not be figuring out split testing and mastering this? And so I set out for the last 2 years to just run a whole bunch of split tests. And the results, when we would find things that were both counterintuitive and consistent, really blew me away. Like the things that we just assumed didn't matter or that we assumed were best practice often weren't. And so I want to share with you today 7 of these split tests that I found. The results were counterintuitive, and they made me really think about, like, what the heck are we doing here as designers? But you may be wondering, who is this Yahoo in the pink shoes? And so I've been a Shopify partner for over 10 years now. We work exclusively in e-commerce on the Shopify platform. I host an e-com podcast. It's got 2 million downloads, so that's probably what I'm best known for. I got a C in quantitative analysis. So my goal here is to inspire you to try split testing, not necessarily to convince you, and certainly don't accept any of my advice as best practices. And in that time, we've got some fun, interesting clients that we've done a lot of the split testing work for, like Ezra Firestone's recently acquired Overtone, Hoonigan, which is a really fun automotive apparel lifestyle brand, Harney Tea, if you like tea, you've probably heard of Harney, and Jay Leno's Garage. And truthfully, no one cared who I was or what I did, and then suddenly I helped Jay Leno build a website, and then, oh, lo and behold, when you attach that celebrity name, then people start taking me seriously. And then you combine that with the podcast. Okay, now suddenly I've got a social media following, and maybe the internet cares what I think. And so I will share some of that wisdom with you today. But we have to establish some ground rules. If I post anything on the internet about split testing, and there's someone who sees it and goes, well, that disagrees with what my gut tells me is true, they'll immediately reply with, well, is it statistically significant? And that's a problem, because even if it were statistically significant, because I don't think it matters if it is, because it's not applicable to your website. A split test will be statistically significant for only the site we ran it on, for only that audience, for only that brand. So I love when people share the results, they share their split tests, but you can't just take it as best practice. You got to do it yourself. So I think there's no best practices mostly, because later on I will contradict myself. I think you have to do these tests yourself if you want them to matter. And you have to consider segmentation. I think that is a really common mistake that I learned that I was making. And like mobile versus desktop, new versus returning. It's just 4 wildly different groups in terms of intent, in terms of usage. And in e-commerce at least, if we found a website where 70% of traffic was on mobile, I would find that extremely unusual in that it would be way too low. 80%, 90% is much more common. Now, as far as tools go, there are lots of tools to do this. My tech stack happens to be Shopify and Google Optimize. It's what I know. It's what I'm comfortable with. You should use whatever tools you like in whatever situation you're in. But, all right, we've got the preamble out of the way. It is time to share some of these tests. High-impact tests for fun and profit. Okay, first one. Should price appear on collection grids? You're on a category page. You're browsing a group of products. We've got review stars. We've got title. Maybe we've got vendor. We've got color swatches, options, a quick view button, great photo, maybe a lifestyle photo. But what about the price? Should we include the price? Does it matter on the collection page? And I don't know the answer. You have to test it, because there are some cases where revenue per session, when we got rid of the price, went up not just a little bit, but dramatically. But then on other sides, it had the opposite effect. And so my hypothesis here is that when you see the prices, or when you see the products on a collection grid without the prices, you make a mental judgment. You assign a value to those things, where you say, whether you think about it consciously or not, you know roughly what you suspect this item should be worth. And so when you click through the product page, if that price is below what you thought it was going to be, then I think miraculously you go, oh, that's a great value. And if it goes the other way, you go, oh, I'm not going to pay for that. That's a little expensive. And so it depends on your pricing, your value proposition, your audience. But I love this one because it's such a great example of there is no best practice until suddenly getting rid of the price makes you a ton of money. But it's such a great example where it's a tiny, tiny change with a huge impact that you absolutely have to test. What about font size? How important is font size? This was the thing I wanted to figure out. I'm always banging the drum that if you just make sites easier to read, they'll convert better. I think this one is best practice. I think this is a truism. And of course, it makes sense. If I have a site that's difficult to read, guess what? No one is going to fight with it. No one is going to try and figure out how they can read it. They're not going to squint at it, grab reading glasses, turn on reader view. They're going to press the back button and go elsewhere, go to a different site, go back to scrolling through Instagram or whatever. And so I wanted to try and prove this. And I thought, I'll test it. I will test font size on websites. And what I found was just strictly font size, that I was strictly testing font size. It didn't matter, because readability, it turns out, is far more complicated than just font size. But I did figure out readability guidelines. And when you start treating the website like a publication, like if you ever read newspaper or magazine, they have these really narrow columns, like insanely narrow columns, where it's like 60 characters, which works out in some cases to like 4 or 5 words. That's really easy to read, it turns out. And same with like scrolling on your phone. It's this much more narrow column. And so when you see sites that have these really wide, full-width product descriptions, it's not going to do well for being able to read it. And so Baymard Institute has these readability guidelines that they present. And they're based on what publishers use plus their own testing. And they're able to go larger scale than I can. And so they present these very opinionated, very severe readability guidelines. And so as a designer, I always use these as a starting point, and then usually soften them a little bit, because I find this could be like a little extreme looking. But this one I think is a best practice truism. If you can make your website easier to read, it will convert better. The web is 90% text. That just makes sense. So I think that one you don't necessarily have to test. The test here is squint at your site. Just like really squint at that thing. And if you could still read it while squinting, it's probably readable. This is another one. This is one of my favorites. I've had 2 disagreements with clients this week about this. Should category pages have hero images? You've got like collection of products, and at the top there's a banner, and it looks really cool. It's got this great aesthetic to it. Should it be there? I love them, and unfortunately, they shouldn't be there unless like you really hate money. You're like, I'll make it too much money. Just put a bigger hero image on there. The issue with these hero images is they increase scroll debt, and scroll debt costs conversions. And so I wish that the fold was a myth. Unfortunately, it's not, is what I'm learning. And I hate it. I don't want the fold to be real. I want it to be a myth. But the darn thing is real. And so any instance in which we can just get people to shopping faster seems to almost universally increase conversions. And so if you've got this hero image across the top of a site, it's just getting in the way. The brand owner may like it. It's got like this great lifestyle aesthetic to it. It's super cool. But for the real shoppers, the real ones who care, they just want to buy your stuff, they want to get to your product, that's just a thing in the way. It's an annoyance to scroll past. And so we were able to convince people to let us split test this on collection pages and category pages. And they never were thrilled with the answer that they just should get rid of the hero image, which always surprised me. Like, it's less work. It's one less element. It's one less thing to worry about, to make work to put in there, to create for new collections. And once we convinced them, several people of that, we got them to let us test on home pages. Should home pages have hero images? And oh my gosh, it gets even worse there. If you get rid of a hero image, a carousel, an image slider, whatever this is on a home page, they almost always convert better. At this point, I think a home page should just be like, here is a stack of a product grid, featured products, anything non-shopping related, dump it, get it out of the way. And so hero images, like one store we ran it with, increased revenue per session 16%, 92% confidence. All right, I want 95 or better, but this was a really consistent result we found. What about shipping costs? There's this idea in e-commerce, the number one thing that gets in the way, the big conversion killer, the reason people abandon your checkouts, unexpected shipping expense. And I don't know that it's true anymore. I really don't. I think it was a truism when 20 years ago, that's how companies, that's how Amazon were getting us to accept and adopt e-commerce. It's been a long time since we had to introduce people to the concept of e-commerce, and especially post-pandemic, where we had to, where we saw adoption really accelerate. And so I think free shipping is not necessarily a must-have. I think it's a must-test, right? We've got, in my case, if you're using Shopify, you have to be on Shopify Plus. There are a couple tools that will let you split test your free shipping rates, your free shipping thresholds. Intelligence and ShipScout are the two off the top of my head. And so in here, we tried it. And this tool is really cool. It'll give you checkout conversion rate. And so we said, all right, at no free shipping versus $25 free shipping threshold, which is what Amazon had historically always done, and then $75 free shipping threshold, which was right around our average order value. And I tend to like average order value as a good starting point for free shipping threshold tests. And you see suddenly, okay, it performs as expected, but without the dramatic change that you might expect. Like, on this conversion rate, free shipping at $25 has the highest conversion rate, but 75 threshold, which would make you way more money, right behind it, and then no free shipping is really close behind that. Like, it's really close here. And things get stranger when you start to consider the extraordinary expense of shipping. It has only gone up. It has not gotten cheaper. And so once you start factoring in profit per checkout visitor, then suddenly no free shipping actually makes way more sense. So depending on your margins, if you have a 6-pound product, it's very expensive to ship versus like a unbreakable, very light t-shirt, well, our shipping costs change wildly here, and our margins change wildly. So certainly this, I think often free shipping, this assumption that it's must have, it's this gigantic cost center in a business that you could optimize for. And meanwhile, people are worrying about like, well, what hero image should I have? Which app should I install? When you have this giant like money furnace being represented by free shipping in your checkout. And so I think it's worthwhile to explore it. So it's definitely not necessarily a must-have, it's a must-test. The issue with it, it's tough to test. Like, at least within our tech stack, you have to be on Shopify's Enterprise Plan Plus, and then there's a handful of apps separate of our traditional split testing apps that we have to use. So an easier way to do it, and not scientific, not statistically significant, but changing the free shipping threshold and then trying to compare that week to week, or going to paid shipping and then using coupon codes and segmenting your audience to have shipping at different thresholds. And it kind of give you a better idea of where your ideal free shipping threshold should be, if you should even offer it at all. One of the nice things about not offering free shipping full-time is then that becomes a really easy promo to run and a very attractive promo for your customers. Ooh, recently viewed products. I like these. I find these convenient when I'm a shopper. As a designer, I'm like, it's extraneous nonsense, and it's in the way, and I should get rid of it. as a designer, as someone who's doing conversion rate optimization, mostly I'm just looking for stuff to delete. Like, websites acquire cruft over time, and like widgets and elements and nonsense, and you follow a bunch of best practices on Twitter, and suddenly your website is just like barnacles to a ship. This thing looks like it got graffitied. And recently viewed products is often one of those things where I'm like, I should delete that, even though I know I use it. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I got to test this thing. We got to figure this out. And this is such a great example of why you need to be considering segmentation and audience and intent in tests. When we ran it as a wide test, it came back inconclusive. And most tests do, truthfully. Like, that's the frustration of split testing. You find either most tests are flawed and give you no result, or things that you thought matter make no difference one way or the other. When you start to mix in segmentation, sometimes we can get some more accurate results out of it. And so with this recent browsing, like recently viewed products, your browsing history, that kind of thing, for new visitors, its existence is just like a bizarre broken element. And it decreased conversion rate by 9%. And this was on 2 different apparel sites was where we tested it. But for returning visitors, it increased conversion rate by 1/3. Oh my gosh. And in this case, like both times, I had it living in the product page, and I had it living in the cart page. And I think on the cart page is really where this thing becomes very useful. And it also, I think it's valuable for increasing average order value. Like, hey, here's this other stuff you were looking at. As long as you're making the purchase, you may as well combine that shipping. Save on shipping, grab it. That's another reason why I think we see some benefit to either really raising those free shipping thresholds or getting rid of it altogether, is people will bundle orders together. It's just more efficient for you. What about quick add? This is another one where I'm like, who shops like this? But I'm also on like a gigabit internet connection where clicking, and I want to open 200 tabs and click through them. And so for me as a shopper, I do not see the value in a quick view or a quick add on a collection page. But when you have, and certainly when you have like a real spec-driven product where I need to compare things, the quick add and the quick view is not going to help me too much. But in like t-shirts, especially if it's a brand I've bought from before, I don't necessarily need to read the description. Like, oh, it's 100% cotton, you don't say. And there's 2 armholes? I don't have to click through on this thing. I already know it. It's assumed. And so like a quick add and a quick view, it turns out, if it is a non-spec driven product, can actually be quite valuable. In our case, running this at 2 apparel stores, increased revenue by visitor 15% with not the best confidence, but enough for me to keep the thing as opposed to getting rid of it. And Baymard Institute has data on a larger scale that shares a similar, like user testing data, that shares a similar idea. If it's spec-based, it just ends up being like extra load time and extra steps, versus if it's something more straightforward, especially inexpensive stuff. Like we worked on a body jewelry website where an item is, like $7 or less, and you don't really need to think too hard about it. There, stuff like that, quick add on a collection page, really, really quite useful and helpful. What about breadcrumbs? This is another one of those things where I'm like, who needs this? You can't just click the back button. You haven't opened 200 tabs that you click around in an ADHD loop nightmare of trying to make a decision. Like, why do I need these breadcrumbs? I should just delete them. Yes, that's what the devil inside likes, is just deleting these elements to make cleaner websites. And so, all right, fine. We'll test breadcrumbs. Do I need these breadcrumbs? And it turns out I absolutely do need the darn breadcrumbs, especially on a product detail page where I'm on a product detail page. I came from a collection or category page, came from a landing page. Suddenly that breadcrumb is very useful for getting people back and forth through the collection and increasing average order value. So we found when we keep that breadcrumb, it needs to be on the product detail page. It'll increase revenue per visitor by 50%. Oh my gosh. So this really appears to me as a necessity to have on a site. It's just like a standard navigation element that everybody's using, that they need. Whereas on like a collection page, they almost always just say like back to home, less useful. But product detail page, definitely got to have that breadcrumb. So, all right, those are my interesting tips, but I've got some testing tips here. You got to question everything. Like there is, until you have tested it, And until you have tested it recently, because trends and expectations and audiences change over time, you really have no idea what matters on your website. Some things help, some things hurt, and a lot of things make no difference whatsoever, except maybe they slow down or impact load time. And so it's worthwhile, if you're starting with split testing, to try, especially with less traffic, to try and make big changes. To make all right, I've got 2 versions of a homepage. I've got one version this is the original version. It's got all my stuff. It's got every best practice and app and widget and thing I was told to do to be a good boy in the e-commerce space. And then a version where we let the devil inside design it, and that devil says, I want them to open their wallet and buy. And so everything that does not lead to a product or collection page is getting deleted off this website. And if you find the really streamlined version one performs better, okay, now you can start diving into it and going and trying to figure out which are the elements that matter and do a longer, deeper dive into it. But that was one of the early mistakes I learned. People tend to start small with their split tests. And when you're early at it, you don't necessarily know what you're doing. It's easier to do I've got 2 very different versions, because you're much more likely to get a statistically significant result. The other common mistake I found that I was making and that other people were making is they almost always just go straight to conversion rate. It almost becomes synonymous. If I say, we split tested it, it becomes an assumption that, you split tested it to see what is the impact on conversion rate. Well, it turns out there's lots of metrics you can measure. In fact, you probably want the next step in the funnel that's closest to where the person's at. So you can measure for page view, bounce rate, transaction, which is what Shopify or what Google Optimize calls conversions, transactions. Revenue, which is really going to give us a blend of average order value and conversions. And so if you have a catalog that has very similarly priced products, choosing revenue can also be quite helpful, because maybe I want to optimize for higher average order values, especially if I have heavy items that are expensive to ship. In the other neat trick with that I didn't necessarily know right away with Google Optimize, you could choose multiple goals. So you could say, all right, my primary goal might be conversions, but I also want to see, does this impact bounce rate? Does this impact page views? And so there's sometimes a balancing act that you're walking there. And then the final tip there, consider segmentation. When you first do your split testing, you're testing for everyone who visits the site. And it could be that easier and more attractive, because more data, you get faster results out of it. But sometimes there's going to be huge differences in what happens when you look at new versus returning visitors, mobile versus desktop. We saw that with that recently viewed product example. And then you could also segment regionally, say okay, how does this perform in the US versus Canada, that kind of thing. And that's it. 2 years ago, I really was not confident with split testing. I loved usability, I loved user testing, but I just didn't have the confidence, I didn't have the order velocity within our clients to be able to handle figuring out split testing. But once I sat down and did it and started to figure it out and was willing to be frustrated by it, then it opened up this entire world of not guessing and not having imposter syndrome and not being unsure. When you can run those tests and go, oh wow, this actually did make a difference, or this doesn't matter, it is both eye-opening and confidence inspiring. You stand a little taller when you're trying to make those arguments for this is how this site should be laid out, this should be designed, this is what resonates with our audience and visitors. So I hope that was useful. I hope you'll try split testing, or at least, the very least, start questioning elements in designs and websites as to what purpose do they serve, do they help or hurt our goal, or is this just for our ego? I'm Kurt Elster. You can grab my newsletter, kurtelster.com. Call it Ecom Recon Weekly. It's kind of fun. Keep it sassy. Thank you.